Hello and welcome to episode 88 of the Brass Junkies. I am your host, Andrew Hitz, and I am joined by the lovely and talented Lance LaDuke. Lance, how are you today?
I'm really good, and I mean that genuinely.
Why are you so good?
Sun is shining. It's a pretty day out. Getting ready to go to the Missouri Bandmasters Association. Hang out at Tantera Resort.
Did you have something bigger than any of those things happen to you recently?
Let's see. I got some new shoes. Oh, no.
Do you remember proposing to your girlfriend?
Oh yeah, that was
yeah. Did she say yes?
Well, it's a funny story that she did say yes. So I'll cut to the chase. So I told my son. So it was awesome. We did it. We did it at there's a Frank Lloyd Wright. Well, there's a bunch of Frank Lloyd Wright stuff near Pittsburgh. Falling Water is near here, a thing called Kentuck Knob, and there's like this little settlement of three places. Yeah, Kentuck Knob. Let's just keep moving. Keep moving. But so one of my dreams has always been to spend the night in a Frank Lloyd Wright house without breaking in. And so there's a place called the Duncan House, which was actually relocated from someplace, maybe Indiana, I can't remember. But now it's here, and you can spend the night there. And so as sort of
so you spent the night.
We did indeed, and. So I proposed to her, and it went well. It was very memorable and great, and came home the next day, and then I was assembling a piece of patio furniture on the back porch with my son, and I told my son that I said, "Hey, I proposed yesterday," and he goes, "Oh, how'd that go?" But the kids are happy, and it all worked out well. But I thought that was
really funny.
Was definitely the funniest response.
Hey, dumbass, you think I'd be telling you if she said no? Yeah, I know.
So we're very, very happy, and we got a couple trips this summer, and yeah, it's good. Good.
Blah, blah, blah. Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Yes,
I'm sure some of the audience is very happy for you, and then some really don't care. But those are probably the people that skip the intro anyways. So, yeah, Overcast has a new feature where you can actually skip anytime the host is talking. You can just listen to the person being interviewed. So, which would probably whittle our episodes down to about 18 minutes. Oh, goodness. So we throwback here to Jonathan Dorn, which what episode was Mr. Dorn? He was. I've actually got it open here.
I might be able to tell you. I don't know.
It was a while ago. It was episode 71, TBJ88, back in the beginning of November.
There it is.
But you actually told a very funny story because he was talking about animals on gigs, and then you shared a story from your grandfather, which you then just reshared in the interview with Jeff, which we're about to get to. But to remind everybody the story about your grandfather's drum set and the elephant.
Well, he was a drummer in the mid to late 30s and early 40s at the beginning of jazz, and so he had the opportunity to play with the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus on a live. I don't know why you would want to listen to a live radio broadcast of a circus, but nonetheless, this was what he was doing, and it started with a big drum roll, and then the elephants would come out, and one of the elephants gets to his drum set and stops and relieves itself all over my grandfather's drums.
and so we likened that to a fire hose.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. And so then, because our listeners are awesome, we got an email almost right away, and it just slipped down my inbox because I said, "Hey, can we share this?" And he said, "Absolutely, it'd be awesome if you would." So we have a listener by the name of David Wolf, and we got this awesome email from him. It said, "Good afternoon. I'm an anatomy and physiology instructor at the University of Indianapolis, as well as a trumpet player." And then in parentheses, "so you probably just quit reading." That's funny. He said, yesterday I listened to your Brass Junkies podcast with Jonathan Dorn on my way to play a couple church gigs. Great interview, and he's an absolute panic with 3 exclamation points. He then said, anyway, part of the interview, specifically the story about someone getting pissed on by an elephant, struck me as absolutely hysterical. Since my main gig is teaching and we discussed the urinary system toward the end of the semester in my physiology courses, I wanted to share one of my slides. You're equating the incident to being sprayed with a fire hose is more right than you probably thought. Signed, David Wolf. P.S. Thanks again for the laughs and the info from all your podcasts. So he then shared with us a PowerPoint slide that he uses in his class, which the title is Raging Rivers, Gentle Streams. And it says a new study shows that mammals urinate for a remarkably similar length of time, regardless of body size and bladder capacity. And this is a graphic, by the way, that shows the gallons, which is funny. A Great Dane dog, the bladder volume is 0.4 gallons. The duration of urination is 24 seconds. A bison is 5.5 gallon bladder, and it takes 20 seconds. And the African elephant is 42 gallons, which it gets rid of in 22 seconds. So I love the fact that we are getting
per second.
That's pretty good. We're getting emails from physiology professors at colleges telling us that our elephant urination analogies are more accurate than we actually thought. So, David, you rock.
Science.
Thank you for sending us that slide. Science. Yeah, we're scientists.
That's right.
we dabble in physiology from time to time, so when we're not getting engaged or, playing the root of chords. So yeah, that's that. That's pretty funny, right?
Exactly.
So we have a big announcement. Do you know what that big announcement is, Lance?
Well,
we are.
You know what? I need an intern that would help me keep track of big announcements. That would be awesome. What's our?
We need an intern. We are hiring an intern. We've had a number of them in the past, and they've all gone on to change the world. So, which was in spite of them spending some time with us. So, but if you go to PedalNoteMedia/intern, well, PedalNoteMedia.com would help /intern. We are looking for somebody that's good with social media, that's got a good attention to detail, and somebody that's looking to learn about all of our various projects and their online presences. So if you are somebody that's interested in that, then go ahead and head to PedalNoteMedia.com/intern. We are leaving the application process open until August 1st. So if you are interested, then you can shoot us a line, and there's more details on the website. And so if you go there, then you can figure out if you would be a good fit for being the next Pedal Note Media intern. So
we'd love to have you.
Yeah, it would be awesome. We've had some great ones in the past.
And for better or for worse, you get to hang out with us more online and sort of figure out how the sausage is made. So if you're curious about what goes on in terms of putting a show like this together, and we actually have a couple. I hate to be cryptic like this, but we have a pretty significant thing planned for hopefully this fall, and you'll be at the ground level and helping execute that as well. So
yes, we're not ready to make an announcement about that yet, but it's going to be a big announcement, and it's specifically for the audience of this podcast and people like them. So going to be good stuff. So you can get in like below the ground floor. I mean, we're like laying the foundation right now. So there you go. So elephant piss and interns. What else was there? Parker mouthpieces. So,
what a natural transition.
Lance, I love this. This is going to make you laugh. This is going to make everybody laugh.
Uh-huh.
I don't even remember which episode it was about the double belt euphonium.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was recent. It was anyway. It was somebody who was talking about the double belt euphonium. And I think it was the Tom McCaslin episode, if I remember correctly.
Right.
Anyway, we asked him what kind of mouthpiece you played on a double bell euphonium, and then we talked about how Parker mouthpieces should make a mouthpiece for double bell euphonium. And I don't remember whether it was you or me that said, in fact, everyone needs to email Parker mouthpieces to request to request that. Anyway. So about a week ago, I got an email from Parker saying, dude, why does everyone keep emailing me about making about making a double belled euphonium mouthpiece. And I exploded. Wah, ha, 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 ha. And then, and he said, I said, that's hilarious. And then I explained it. And then he said, you think it's funny? Are you going to answer all these emails? And then I wrote back and I said, you're welcome. Every one of those people went to your website. And then he wrote back and said, oh yeah, you're good. So thank you to everyone who took the time to email my dear friend Michael Parker and torture him with insincere requests for him to develop a double-belled euphonium mouthpiece. So that's pretty great. So Parker Mouthpieces provides the hosting for the Brass Junkies. Parker Mouthpieces offers fine customizable component mouthpieces for horn, trombone, euphonium, double-belled euphonium, and tuba, including the Andrews Artist model tuba mouthpiece and the Lance LaDuke model single-bell euphonium mouthpiece. You can find out more at parkermouthpieces.com. You can follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and you can also maybe you could email him this week to ask, say that you read on Reddit that there's such a thing as a triple belled euphonium that was like pre Civil War, and that you're wondering if he was going to develop a triple belled euphonium. Please, everyone, do that, because it's torturing my friend, and that's really the only reason I have friends. So go to parkermouthpieces.com, click on the email link, and then help me to. Put my very busy and dear friend Michael Parker, put him in a world of hurt. So there you go. How about the Papert people?
The Papert people are fantastic. We would like to thank the brass area of the Mary Papert School of Music at Duquesne University in lovely and sunny Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. If you're interested in finding out what they have going on over there, there's some very exciting developments. I have been replaced there by a former student of mine, Algirdas Matonis, who is a complete rock star in the euphonium. After 19 years, I decided to step down, and Algirdas is going to take over the studio very ably and bring a lot of energy. And then James I know.
I was just thinking it's not going to be hard to bring more energy. But anyway. Yeah.
And James Gourlay has actually joined the faculty as well. So we'll have to get one or both of those guys on. Special thanks to Jim Leadfoot Nova for helping make that possible. No, that one he'll like, actually. So
on April Fool's Day, he posted that
was a good one.
Yeah, like he wrecked his Beamer, and then that he was barely got out alive, and he was in the hospital, and a whole bunch of people thought he was serious. So, a bunch of famous trombone players thought he was serious. So, well played, Leadfoot.
I thought so too. So, thanks to the Papert School and Jim Leadfoot Nova.
And the last thing here before we're going to have to actually trim the Jeff Strong conversation down to like 20 minutes so we can keep this at the right amount of time. But no, actually, in all seriousness, this conversation that you're about to hear with Jeff Strong, trumpet player formerly of the President's Own Marine Band and currently second trumpet in the St. Louis Symphony, is awesome. It's really good. It's hilarious. He's got some great stories, some behind the scenes stuff from the Marine Band, and but he also talks about his approach to playing and teaching. And it's like, this was one of my favorite episodes. It was really good, one. And we got into the two goat theory, which is important. It's very important, the two goat theory. So thank you to everybody who has gone to patreon.com/the Brass Junkies. You guys are awesome. We're getting those stream in slowly but surely all the time. Thank you to everyone who has done that. Anyone who donates $3 per episode or higher gets a whole lot of bonus content out of us, and there's some more coming down the pike. But also, anybody that donates even $1 an episode gets to hear the bonus episodes, which each guest hangs out for just a little bit longer after the regular episode, which will always and forever remain free. And you get to hear all of the back episodes of the bonus episodes, by the way, by just giving a dollar per episode moving forward. So a whopping $26 a year. So and the only other thing is iTunes. Everybody that's gone and left a rating and a review, thank you very much for that. And I think that's going to do it for announcements. And, read the elephant piss email, talked about the intern. Go to pedalnotemedia.com/intern if you'd like to work with two people like us, which means you've got some issues. But hey, if your issues work with our issues, then we could be a good team. So And without further ado, let's get to the awesome conversation that we had with the second trumpet in the St. Louis Symphony, Jeff Strong. Today on the Brass Junkies, we are joined by a superstar in the trumpet world, but aren't they all superstars, Lance?
Aren't they?
They really are. So, but this one actually has a legitimate claim to that, even though he will poo-poo that. This is the St. Louis Symphony's Jeff Strong. Jeff, how are you?
Great. How are you?
We're doing great. You're up early for us, so thank you very much for that.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. You've got a 1:00 concert today. What is your program?
Today we are doing an opera, actually, called Regina by Mark Blitzstein. Yeah.
Wow. Is it a premiere or is it?
No, actually, funnily enough, it very rarely gets performed, I think, and but there are a lot of elements in it that sound a lot like some of the music of Bernstein's, like Maria, are quotes in there. And apparently Blitzstein wrote it first, and then
really
Bernstein lifted it, apparently. Although I could be wrong about that because I didn't actually read that. Someone just told it to me. So,
See, Jeff is actually, we were asking him for the end, like, what we could plug. And, he said that he's not on social media. And it's like, so you don't understand that you could just read it from a complete stranger who doesn't even have a name or a profile picture on their Twitter account. And then you could just get to parrot that as fact. So you don't have to worry about, we're living in a post-fact world. So it's, so it's true. It's true according to Jeff. So there you go. Jeff is also an amateur musicologist.
That's right.
I guess as of now. So how long have you been in the St. Louis Symphony?
I just am coming up to the end of my third season.
And what were you doing before that?
Before here, I was in the Marine Band, the President's Own in DC, for just about 7 years.
Have you heard of that band, Lance?
Where is that? So were you there? You were kind of at the tail end of Colburn, or were you after he left?
Yeah, I was there when for the end of his time there when he retired, and then I was there for a year or two when Jason Fettig took over.
Jeff, nice to meet you, Michael Colburn. Great to meet you. Have you on board?
Yeah,
I just heard that Jeff forced him out.
It's true. Yeah, no, he was actually incredibly intimidating for me, anyway.
Colburn was?
So, yeah.
Why?
Terrifying.
I want to hear it. Give me juice. You're out now. The statute of limitations is up. You're good.
And Lance and Colbert have known each other forever. They go way back to before he had lots of medals on his uniform. So yeah,
I knew him back when he was a musician before he became a conductor.
Oh.
Well, I mean, he was the top of the food chain in the band when I was there, and he gave me my first job. So I had.
You got to be nice to him.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, fine.
That was anticlimactic. Yeah, it's like, come on, why don't you talk? Why don't you talk crap about one of the nicest humans that you could ever hope to meet? Like, no, you're not interested. Damn it! I thought that was going to work out.
I had a running thing for a while where there's a story that I think we kind of tiptoed around involving a ficus tree in a tuba conference, and for years, I would, anytime I would run into somebody from the Marine Band, I'd say, when you go home, ask your boss about the ficus tree. And they're like, no, dude, I don't know what you're talking about, and I'm not going to do that.
If I'm not mistaken, actually, we were interviewing Jeff's good friend, Amy McCabe, and you told her that she should ask him about the ficus tree. She was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. Oh, goodness.
Oh, wow, what are you going to do?
And I don't think that you asked him about that, did you? I mean, you kind of you alluded to to past behaviors, but I
think we talked about it as much as we could talk about it. I think maybe it was only on the bonus episode. I mean, it's not. Well, now we've built it up, but it was pretty darn funny.
No, it's nothing horrible. It's just funny. Yeah, it's just, someone not acting like they're at the top of the food chain because they weren't at the top of the food chain. So yeah, there you go.
It reminds me of this story. My grandfather used to play drums, and one time he was doing this live gig, and an elephant came out and pissed all over his drum set. I don't know why somehow those two stick together in my head, but.
which we were planning on talking about in the intro. So this is the second time that everyone has heard about Lance's grandfather getting an elephant pissing on his drum set.
Like his tree fits. I just thought we should go. It needed to be watered.
This is why we can't have nice things, Lance. So where were you before the Marine Band?
Before the Marine Band, I had just finished my graduate studies at Northwestern, and I was playing in the Civic Orchestra.
Who was in the section with you in Civic?
It was me, Mike Martin, and Colin Olberg. And funnily enough, the three of us and Tom Siders were in the finals for the Marine Band audition.
Huh.
Oh, wow.
So having the three Civic trumpet boys there was kind of fun.
And Mike hasn't spoken to you since to this day.
That's right. No, actually, it was funny because, pretty soon after the audition, Siders got the spot in Boston, and then Mike got the spot in Boston, and then I was standing out in freezing temperatures playing taps, and what the heck?
So you just got a text. You won the battle, but you didn't win the war.
Exactly.
Well, I assume Civic at any given moment. I'm sure this is true of any instrument, but especially the brass instruments. I had a feeling that there were going to be some heavies that you mentioned that you played with, because that it's a breeding ground for people who end up with gigs. So
yeah, and just being at Northwestern in general was like trumpet mecca at the time.
Right.
I mean, I was in the studio with Mike Martin, Ethan Bensdorf, Brandon Eubank, Karen Bliznick, Carrie Schaefer, Colin Olberg. I mean, it's like,
jeez.
It was a pretty good group of trumpet players to be surrounded with.
Wow.
I was
The last time that you and I saw each other was when Mallory Thompson put together the alumni brass ensemble for the 20th anniversary of of her at Northwestern.
Yeah.
And you just mentioned Brandon Eubank. I've still to this day, like, my head turns to the side like a dog hearing a high pitch when I think back to, we did an arrangement of Shostakovich Festive Overture, and Brandon was playing the pick line, which was like running 64th notes, like 2 octaves above the staff. And he was playing it, and just nailing the piss out of it, if you will.
Oh, yeah.
But he didn't look like he looked like he was warming up. And it was one of the best things that I've ever heard. And he didn't miss anything for any of the rehearsal, the gig. It was just like, it was, what an insane band to play with for a couple of days. Wasn't that fun?
Oh yeah, that was great. And I got to experience some of that same kind of thing when I was at Northwestern, because we did a brass concert at what was it called? Millennium Stage?
Right.
No, is that what it's called? Millennium Park.
Oh, Millennium Park.
Yeah, I don't know what the actual name is, but yeah.
And so we did a few different brass pieces, and then we did the Jay Friedman Alpine Symphony brass deal, and then we ended the concert with the Shostakovich Festive Overture, which was just like,
wow.
I remember I don't know how censored my speech should be.
Roll.
But I remember Dr. Thompson pulled us aside afterwards, and she went, "Man, you guys have balls for days." Yeah, that was a very memorable concert.
I love that at that alumni concert. My senior year at Northwestern was Mallory Thompson's first year at Northwestern. So I was by definition I was the oldest guy in the band. So yeah, I was the senior member. So, but yeah, that was boy. I've been blessed in my career, and that was two of the most fun days that I've had. So that was just such a great time. So
hey, let me ask you. Oh, were you? Is
no,
there more on that?
Go ahead.
Let me ask you to explain a thing that I don't think we've had anybody explain, which is what playing taps at Arlington, like what. There's a whole bunch of stuff that happens before, and then there's the playing of the taps, and it's kind of an involved thing. Would you mind unpacking that? I hope it doesn't bring back such terrible memories, but if you could just sort of unpack what that whole setup is, that would be cool.
Sure. How about I just walk you through like what a morning would be like leading up to it. So let's say that there was a 9:00 funeral. So you would, and things might be different in other bands like the Air Force Band, but for us anyway, show up to the barracks pretty early, warm up a little bit, and get our uniform on and whatnot, and then we would get on the bus and take transportation over to Arlington Cemetery as a band. We would travel together. And then when you get there, get off the bus, get into formation, and then depending on what kind of funeral it is, sometimes there would be a chapel service, sometimes not.
Well, let's pause there for a second. So, what's that mean? That a chapel service or not?
So sometimes we would get off the bus and at a spot somewhere in the middle of the cemetery, and just do we would process over to the grave site from a designated spot in the cemetery. And then there were other times where there was a funeral service held at a chapel before the actual march over to the grave site. And so what we would do is we would play the casket into the chapel, and then we would wait outside for 45 minutes or so. And then we would, from there, march down to the grave site. Mm-hmm. And then once we got down there, we would play some marches along the way. And sometimes it was a shorter amount of time that we were marching, so we might play just one or two. Other times it was a mile long or something, so we would play quite a bit.
How? I'm sorry to keep interrupting you. What's the size of the band and instrumentation?
Oh, man. Let me see.
I mean, roughly, it's like a couple dozen, right?
Yeah, like 2 trombones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trumpets, a euphonium or 2, sousaphone or 2, I think, and then woodwinds of, they're all the same, woodwinds, and then percussion. Like a couple snare drums or side drums and a bass drum.
And it was one of the funny things to me was the old timers, like they would say the funeral is in section, and then they would say a number, and the old timers would be like, because they knew Arlington like the back of their hands. So they knew like this one's going to be really far away, and if you're going into the older part of Arlington or the newer part, so sorry. Anyway, pick it back up. So now you're marching to the graveside.
Yeah. So we get there, and the formation goes over to the gravesite, and then we would play the Marines hymn slowly as the body bearers carried the body over to the gravesite, still in the casket, and then I just feel like that's an important the way that I worded that. I wanted just to make sure. Just want to make sure that was clear. And then we would play. Gosh, I'm trying to remember the exact order, but we would play the Slow Marines hymn as they brought it over, and then they would do there would be some things said, words said, and then they would fold the flag, And then one of the trumpet players, whoever was designated to play taps, would step out of formation. So now everyone's looking at you. And then they would do the rifle volleys. After the rifle volleys, then you play taps and then march back over to the formation, play Eternal Father, that hymn, and then you're about done. And then you would march back over to the bus and go home. And one of the things that people might not think about is that this was something, some people struggled with this more than others, but for me, sometimes this would be a real issue, depending on what I had done the day before. But once you are in the middle of Arlington Cemetery, if you have to go to the bathroom, there's nowhere to go.
Right.
And I remember once getting off the bus. Maybe this isn't the story you wanted to hear, but
this is exactly the story I wanted to hear.
But I remember getting off the bus, and the bus drove away. And as we were waiting for everything to sort of get set up, it was like I got punched in the gut by the bathroom fairy, and and there was nowhere to go. And I remember, and I had to play taps that day. And so we the whole thing took about 45 minutes, maybe a little longer. And I remember by the time I was playing taps, I was crying because I was trying so hard to hold everything in, and and sweating, and it was awful. I think Amy McCabe was on that one, and and so afterwards, we get back to the bus, and I apologize to everyone as I'm running to the back of the bus, and there's a little bathroom back there. I do what I have to do, and one of the a master sergeant from the I don't know if he was with A Company or who he was with, but he got on the bus and he said, "Who played taps?" And I was thinking, oh God, I was like, maybe I skipped some notes or something because I was, and so exactly, and so everyone kind of looks back at me as I'm coming out of the bathroom, and so I go up there, and he says, "That was the best taps I've ever heard in my life." And I got off the bus, and I went, "Oh, all right, maybe that's the secret."
Would you write down the fingerings for me?
The key is just searing pain from the bladder area.
Okay, yeah. So let's stay here because
this is a whole show about urine. This is good.
It's funny. Yeah, we have a recurring stream. So what I want to know is a few things.
What the hell's wrong with you?
I don't know. How did it rotate? How often would you have to play taps, and how was that decided, and how did you know who was going to do it?
So we had a section commander, Andy Schuler, and he would assign who was going to play what part, who was going to play taps and stuff, and he would just try and spread it around evenly and make sure everyone did their due amount.
And then this sounds like a silly question, so I'll ask it. What's the difference between doing it in February and doing it in August? In terms of prep, in terms of doing it's like that. Yeah. I wasn't on as I was in the concert band, and I filled in, probably 10 times a year with the ceremonial band. And I just had the utmost respect for those folks because they're playing in all of the work. There's a couple nice days a year, but most of the time it's too hot or too cold or too wet or too whatever.
Yeah. Well, I remember once driving in early in the morning when I had to play taps. I was listening to the radio, and the guy on the radio was saying, "Now there's a severe frostbite warning today, so don't go outside." And so when it gets below a certain temperature outside, they cancel certain elements of the funeral.
Right.
So they'll cancel the band and whatnot, but they still have a trumpet player go out and play taps. And so, I remember standing out there, and the family was late. And,
oh man.
And, but Scott Gerhardt, he's one of the trumpet players in the band. he had told me at one point, oh, just put, Vaseline on your ears and your nose and stuff so that you don't get frostbite, and that kind of helps. And so, yeah, I had my head covered in Vaseline, standing out there hoping that I didn't get frostbite. And then,
Your hat kept falling off.
you can't really feel the muscles in your face after a while. So you just kind of have to put the mouthpiece where you think your lips are and blow and hope that it comes out. And
you're just playing alone, a really sensitive thing, which is, for the people listening to it, is the most important piece of music they've probably ever heard in their entire lives. So other than that, it's really no pressure.
Right. Yeah. And and I definitely had to play taps in some high pressure situations like that. Or we did, what was it? I think it was a Memorial Day thing at the Vietnam Memorial, and Obama was there, and a bunch of high-ranking military officials, and then a bunch of Vietnam veterans, and it was broadcast on live TV, and I had to play taps for that. And and it's it's a tough thing, but usually it goes okay. I would prepare for that in strange ways to make sure that the nerves and stuff weren't the worst thing that I had felt by the time I played it.
Strange ways.
Yeah, unpack that.
I remember before that one, my mother-in-law was in town, and so I knew she wasn't expecting this. So what I did is, when she and my wife were sitting down, we had a kind of a small place at the time, and so they were sitting on the couch, and you could see the dining room table. And so what I did is I ran downstairs in just a pair of shorts, and I was wearing and I put my wife's bra on. I knew that would be pretty embarrassing. And I
don't
did
know what I thought you were going to say, but it wasn't that.
And then I jumped up on the table with my trumpet after doing a bunch of push-ups, and stood on one foot on the edge of the table and played taps. And they
for your mother-in-law wearing her daughter's bra.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
And, that definitely got the heart racing. And so, and that
Yours
actually
too,
gave me something to think about when I was out there and trying not to get nervous. I thought, well, this isn't as bad as that,
I was really waiting for where piss was going to come into that story, but it didn't end up doing it.
Thankfully, it didn't. So, and her reaction?
I don't remember. I think she was maybe oddly proud. I'm not.
I always knew she was making a mistake. Yeah.
I was trying to figure out how to make a note for the show notes on this, and I've decided not to.
I'm trying to unsee you wearing a bra and standing on one foot on the edge of a table. That's there you go. That's awesome.
I'm see right here. Here's the difference between you and me. I'm imagining him trying to get the bra adjusted, because there's 45 ways you could adjust it, and he's like trying to figure. It's got this whole plan together.
Well, I didn't clasp it in the back. To be fair.
Okay. There you go.
It wasn't serving a functional purpose, Lance. It was just kind of
Hey, I don't judge, man. I don't judge.
Oh man! Wow, that's great.
It's I hope none of this is seen as disrespectful, but it's one of those situations where, like you said, like it's a crucible. I mean, it's this family's, it could be the worst time of their lives. And
no, absolutely.
It's an incredibly high pressure thing. But then the weird stuff happens because everybody's like all pent up. So strange things occur.
Right. And that's why, that's kind of a funny story. But I mean, you really don't want to mess up when you're doing it.
Sure.
And so I would really try to make sure that I would find ways to prepare. I remember reading that Christian Lindbergh would do jumping jacks and stuff during his practice sessions to get used to playing with his heart rate up. And so I would try and do things like that to make sure that when nerves would hit, when you would be in a situation where you really didn't want to mess up, I wasn't surprised by the feeling of my heart racing or
Right.
something like that. And I knew
Child's
when I
Brothers
was able
told
to deal
a
with
story about that. One of them came over to the other's house, and it was the middle of the summer, and the other was in the house, and the heat was up all the way, and he had his winter coat on, and he was practicing. He's like,
Mhm.
what in the blazes are you doing? And it was that same thing. Like it makes sense at a certain level. You can replicate the physical sensation and then try and cope with that and look for strategies around it.
Yeah, I mean, there were literally times where you'd have to stand around for at least half an hour in the cold without playing a note, and then play taps. So, I mean, that's I think, I don't know if it was Tom Houchin or someone asked, I think it was Tom, what it was like, doing that kind of thing, and he said a good way to replicate it would be sticking your horn in the freezer and then waking up at 3 a.m. and just go grab your horn and play taps.
That's not far off.
Yeah. So it was, I definitely, there are some funerals that I'll always remember because of how heavy the situation was. But yeah, and that's something that I'll definitely take with me of all of the experiences of playing in the Marine Band. Something that I'll take with me for the rest of my life was playing taps and providing that service for those families. Because, if you ever are wondering if the music that you are playing is making a difference in someone's life, you don't have to wonder in that moment. It's definitely a very, and the great thing is that when you're doing it, it's not about you, whereas like maybe playing a solo recital, that is about you. But in that moment, it's really about the other people there. So it's a really powerful thing.
Like I said, I was in the concert band, and sometimes we would do Air Force, and sometimes I wondered why we were doing some of the things we were doing,
Mm-hmm.
and I never ever had that feeling. Whenever I would go and play with the ceremonial band, those were the moments when I fully understood what my job was, what the role was, and how it was important.
Absolutely.
Well, here's a lighter story. So Jimmy Doolittle was this famous Air Force fighter pilot, and he had flown, well, some historian will correct me, but he had flown some amazing number of different planes. He'd been in the Air Force long enough. And so this is a big deal funeral. And so it was the whole Air Force band. So there's like all of the brass and wind players from the Airman a Note and the concert band and the ceremonial band. It's just this enormous band. They have, while we're standing there, they have a flyover with every plane that he had flown in the Air Force, which was incredible. All these incredibly historic planes fly over. One of his colleagues actually played taps. This dude had to be 90 and played taps.
Wow.
And it went as you would imagine. But the end of the ceremony, we start marching, and then I don't know anything. I didn't do enough ceremonies I wasn't really familiar with Arlington, and this is in the wicked old part of Arlington. And so at some point I'm thinking, where are we going? This is strange. And so finally we like turn up this like little cul-de-sac, and the drum major halts us. And it turns out we had made a wrong turn, but they couldn't, it was such a big deal. They couldn't let on that the Air Force band had done this. And so they just took us off into some remote part of the cemetery, and we had to wait for everybody to leave. So it wasn't like clear that we were like, oops, sorry. And so we're like just hung out for an hour while we're waiting for everybody to leave. And then they we had to march 18 miles back to wherever the bus was.
Oh,
it's a strange way to end this day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Jeez.
So did you do any, what kind of preparation did you do that was maybe unorthodox for the St. Louis Symphony audition?
Well, that was sort of, I don't know if there was anything necessarily different that I did specifically for that audition, but that kind of goes back to actually when I was still in Chicago and playing in Civic. Just bear with me. We'll get there. But
we can always cut this later if we need to. So take your time.
Well, when I was playing in Civic, Chris Martin took the section out to lunch, and I remember he told us that someone had said to him, or a lot of people say to him, "Oh man, they wish they could do what he does. They would give anything to do what he does." And he said, well, actually, they wouldn't do anything or give anything to do what he does, because if they would, they would probably be doing what he does, because he spent a ridiculous amount of time every day practicing and preparing. And I remember that really hit home with me, that like, I remember having this moment where I thought, well, am I a better trumpet player than Chris Martin? No. And I thought, okay, well, I at least have to do, if I want to be successful, I at least have to do everything that he does then. Mm-hmm. And so it was this sort of like come to Jesus moment where I thought, okay, well, what if I just do like everything that my teachers have ever told me to do? I mean, what a concept, right? But like, what if I like do all the things? What if I a teacher would say, when you buzz on the mouthpiece, hit the note like directly in the center of the pitch right away. Don't scoop into it or whatever. Okay, well, how hard would that be to like hit a note at, let's say I'm auditioning for an orchestra that plays at 442. How hard would it be to hit the first note of Pictures on the mouthpiece at 442 and have it that ingrained in my ear? Well, that would take a lot of time. Okay, well, I'll do that. And then, with lip slurs, like not, what do you call it? Telegraphing where I'm going, whether I'm going to go up or down. Okay, well, how would I have to practice this to make sure that that doesn't happen? And just kind of go through all those steps every day. And so I got to the point when I was in the Marine Band where I was probably practicing, I don't know, maybe like 8 hours a day. Not necessarily on my face, but like doing ear training, doing like solfege stuff, singing my excerpts, recording myself singing my excerpts, buzzing my excerpts, playing them slowly, anything that you could think of, I was doing, and it was probably too much. It was probably too much practicing, but yeah, I just figured.
Except you got a gig.
Well, that's true. No, I mean,
you'd be pissed if you could know for sure that you could have won that after only practicing 1 hour a day.
So I think that, and so that's kind of what I did to get ready for auditions. Was I just like did all the things, mm-hmm. and however long it took, if that meant that I couldn't move on from the breathing gym in the morning as quickly as I wanted to. Like I would do some of that in the morning, and if I still felt tight, okay, well, I'm not going to move on until I don't. That kind of stuff, and that made a huge difference in my playing. And so I think once I started, I don't remember who said this, but someone said once you start making it to the finals in auditions, then it's just a matter of like your particular style and sound and it fitting the right place. So then it's just a matter of time before you actually win a spot somewhere. So I remember Chris saying, like, don't give an audition committee a reason to say no, And so, and so I would just try and do that. And I started making it to the finals. I made it to the finals in San Francisco and for a couple of the spots there, and was doing pretty well in auditions. And then I got the spot in St. Louis.
Students, not just students, people want there to be some magic formula. It's these heavy valve caps, it's this valve oil, it's this mouthpiece with this sort of taper and this sort of, it's really simple. look at every single possible aspect of your playing and your musicianship and make it better.
Mm-hmm.
It's like as simple as that.
Yeah.
It's
absolutely.
not easy in any way. I mean, the determination and the work ethic and all of that stuff is where the rubber meets the road, but it's very, very simple. I mean, you have to just be honest and face the things you can't do and work on making them better.
Yeah. I think
I once posted something on Facebook about how, the best professionals can play, in any register with, pianissimo with their best possible sound, and about how, that's a really difficult thing to achieve, but that's what all the great professionals can do. And my teacher from Northwestern, Rex Martin, commented on it, and he said, actually, it's not difficult. It just takes a ton of work. And I was like, there it is. He was right. Yep. He made the exact point that I was kind of trying to make, but didn't really realize that it's just that Chris Martin has done a crap load of homework. That's it. He's just done tons of homework. So did you. You didn't just get, and certainly not twice. You didn't just get really lucky and win the Marine Band audition and then just really have a great day and win the St. Louis audition. And I bet you may very well have had good days, but you put yourself in a position where you were going to be in the conversation no matter what, whether your chops felt great or not, or whether you were tired or rested or whatever. It's just homework.
Yeah. Well, I remember when I did my undergrad in San Francisco at the conservatory. And I remember Mark Lawrence, who was teaching trombone at the time there. I don't know. Does he still teach at the conservatory? I know he's at Colburn. But anyway, sure. I remember he said that if it's hard to do, you're probably doing it wrong. And
awesome.
And I think that takes a certain amount of curiosity, like being willing to be curious about other ways of doing things, because like if you're doing something a certain way and it's not going how you would like it to go, chances are you're probably doing something wrong, even if that feels like what you're used to doing. So you have to be willing to say, like, all right, well, maybe what I'm doing is the wrong way to do it. Why don't I try this? So, I know for me, I still, I'm a total geek. I go onto, different websites and look at, master classes that, whoever, Vince DiMartino is doing, or I, do this breathing gym, tuba stuff. And, but yeah, and try all these different methods out and see if there's something that'll, give me a little light bulb moment, and then, make some progress.
Were you always sort of inquisitive like this? I mean, coming up even as a kid, was this a part of your personality, or you just sort of a light bulb went off at some point? Oh, this is what I'm going to have to do that.
Well, I mean, when I was in high school and junior high, I was really into the trumpet. And so, and at the time I wanted to be a jazz player. And so I would spend a ton of time like transcribing solos and learning things by ear. And so I was always just kind of interested in seeing what other people were doing and seeing how I could apply that to what I was doing. That's kind of just how I learned. And
what a cool gift you gave yourself too. I mean, without even really knowing it, you thought you were going to go down this one road, but then the skills that you developed to transcribe those solos ended up paying off big time down the road. I don't know what happened. You guys smell burnt toast?
Press one.
You smell burnt toast?
He's having a heart attack. He's always wanted to die during a podcast interview. So this is, you're living the dream.
Dream come true.
Jeff, can you grab your trumpet and play taps?
Wait, let me get my bra.
I actually think that's one of the things that helps me be a decent second trumpet player is that I've basically learned how to play the trumpet by copying other people's sounds. So it kind of feels natural to sit down and just gravitate towards what the people around me are doing. So I would, that's something I do with my students, or I try to get them to do, is, I'll say, okay, listen to this recording, copy that sound, and go from there.
Really interesting stuff. I love how analytical you are, and what's cool is that listening. I've had the chance to play a few gigs with you, and you would never know that you're this analytical. What I mean by that is that it's just you just exude music. I mean, it's just there's just song coming out of your bell, and so the kind of the dichotomy of well, can you talk about that actually when you're going deep in the practice room and you're working on lip slurs and nod telegraphing and things like that? How do you approach doing that musically?
Well, sometimes I will be sitting there and I'll go down this kind of rabbit hole of like, well, my aperture doesn't feel as focused as it could, and maybe I'm a little tense and have some tension in my breath, and I'll kind of pick it all apart for 20 or 30 minutes and not get anywhere, and then I'll kind of stop and take a step back and go, all right, hold on, let's use some technology, and I'll go on YouTube and watch a few seconds of like Phil Smith playing something, or watch Charlie Vernon masterclass where he talks about how he plays the trombone, and so on a lot of his masterclasses he demonstrates lip slurs and stuff like that. And just watching other people doing it and hearing them, that can sometimes take care of a lot of the technical things or physical things that you're doing in your body. Your body will sort of adjust to try to match that, or at least mine does. But yeah, I figured like, there are some like really basic fundamental things that go through all of our playing, that if that stuff is out of whack, things aren't going to go well. And this is the kind of stuff that everyone talks about, but like, starting with the breath, there are a whole bunch of different analogies for how to blow your air the right way. And, actually I had like an air blowing epiphany last night, actually, when I was practicing, and I thought, oh, maybe that's how I should think of it. So here's my new analogy. My new analogy is that, all right, so imagine you're like pouring water into a cup, and as the cup fills up, you don't stop pouring the water just starts spilling over the top, and it overflows. So like the water's just flowing out. And that was the analogy that worked for me in the moment. So like my lungs were like the cup, and the air was like the water. And as soon as my lungs were full, the air just started spilling out, and I didn't have to like, use any force or stress to push the air out. And that seemed to work well for me last night. So, yeah, so, once I get the air going, then the next thing is getting some kind of vibration happening in the lips. And so usually I find when I'm struggling with lip slurs or articulation or something, somewhere in the beginning of that chain between breathing and blowing and getting a vibration to happen, something is messed up. There's some tension in there or something. And sometimes it's a matter of doing a couple breathing exercises, and other times it's a matter of getting my ear back in the right place and really trying to achieve the sound that I want. And yeah, I guess that's about it. I don't know. But I'm really interested in trying different methods. So I'll do all the things that people suggest. I'll try buzzing with one of those mouthpiece visualizer things. I'll do stuff on the burp. I'll do just buzz freely on the mouthpiece. I'll play it only on the instrument. I'll try a bunch of different things, and then when something works, I'll make a note of it, and next time something's not working, go back to my notes and see, okay, well, this is what worked last time. Let's see if that works now. And usually there are some pretty some things that work consistently time to time. And 9 times out of 10, following the sound, trying to make it sound an exact particular way is like the most important. And if it's not going well, it's probably because I'm not hearing really in my mind how I want it to sound. And I'm just playing off of feel or something. That's what most people do when they're struggling, is they're playing off of feel. They're going, oh, my chops feel puffy, or my air feels tight. And I remember saying that to Barbara Butler in a lesson once. I said, "Oh, I feel really stiff." She said, "Oh, I don't care how you feel." She said, "What does it sound like?" I said, "Oh, well, the sound is kind of tight over here." She said, "Okay, well, open up the sound." And then I did, and then my chops didn't feel, puffy and stiff anymore. So I don't know.
That's pretty cool. I haven't heard that unpacked that way. And also, we've never had someone say air blowing epiphany on the show.
Mark, Lance, you can go ahead and put an explicit tag on this one because I'm about to quote Mark Gould. Mark Gould once famously in a masterclass at Juilliard when one of his students was performing and wasn't going as well as he or she, I don't remember which, wanted it to, and mentioned that their chops didn't feel good, and Mark responded. It was the same thing that Barbara said, but just in a more Mark way. He said it's not supposed to feel good. It's a piece of fucking metal on your face. And then something to the effect of just imagine what you want to sound like, and then just make that come out of the bell.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, and you said something before or asked me about like playing musically and making a phrase and stuff. And I remember once in a lesson playing a Conconi, or was it a Bordoni etude for Barbara? And
you better get it right.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But oh, that's right. I was actually playing out of a trombone book.
Come on.
My
Did you even study with Barbara? How much of this is true?
No, this is true. So I in undergrad, my room or a good friend of mine, and he was sort of my roommate because I slept on his floor for a while before I had a place to live, was Achilles Leo McCoy,
right?
Trombone in the Canadian brass. And so we would play out of his trombone etude books together. And so that's how I learned how to read bass clef. But anyway, so I was playing this etude for Barbara, and I noticed out of the corner of my eye that she was reading a magazine. And so I kind of just stopped after a minute, and she looked up from the magazine and she said, Oh, were you playing? I'm sorry. It was so boring. I just had to find something else to do. It was
ouch.
And that was a good lesson. And so I definitely
that's awesome.
I have a couple actually whiteboards in my practice room with quotes on it and stuff. And I'm looking right now and at some of it, and one of them was like, it says overt musical phrasing. Do it again with more music.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That hurts.
Well,
man.
about two doors down from where you had that lesson with Barbara in Rex's office, I played something, and I don't remember what it was, but it didn't go that well. And Rex, without even a hint of a smile, he said, Andrew, could you try that again? And this time, could you please try not to suck? and so I was like, God damn it. And and then I nailed whatever it was. And then he just lightly tapped me on the leg, and he said, next time, just try and do that the first time. You'll save both you and I a lot of time and suffering. And then we went right on with the lesson. Like that was it. So I think he was proud of how I responded. But yep, this time you just do it again, and this time try not to suck.
Yeah.
So pretty much sums up teaching. Yeah. That's what you want to say every time, but but if you go to that well too often, then people are probably like, why am I? How much is tuition?
Once more with less suck, please.
Yeah. It was exactly what I needed to hear in that moment. Yeah. So yeah, it's good stuff. So
yeah.
So we're almost getting to the end of this. What I'm sure has been a magical hour for you. So can you tell us about what it's like playing in the St. Louis Symphony?
Sure, it's great. One of the reasons. So when I was in the Marine Band, what I loved about being in the Marine, one of the things I loved about it were the people. It was a really great place to be, really nice people. And so when I was taking auditions occasionally to leave the band, one of the things that I took into consideration was sort of the reputation of working there. And I had only heard really positive things about St. Louis Symphony in terms of what it's like with the interpersonal relationships. And I've found that to be really true. It's a really nice place to play. Everyone, for the most part, gets along.
As soon as Taga left, the attitude of the section really improves a lot.
It's funny. I've sort of, Taga was in the Marine Band, and then Taga was second chair in St. Louis, and so I'm kind of doing the same.
You're headed to Chicago next. It's just an issue of when.
Yeah. But I don't know. It's a really, really good orchestra, and the hall is amazing. The acoustics in the hall are pretty fantastic, and so I love playing there.
Great. So if you could play in for a concert with any orchestra in the world, who would it be?
Oh, come on.
What?
All right. Well, the St. Louis Symphony.
Yeah.
Well, no. I know. I mean, I mean one that you haven't played with before. I mean,
if you could be married to any woman in the world.
Well, I would love to play. With Berlin. What an amazing orchestra! They really have a special sound, and it would be really cool to get to play with them. And then I also think it would be really, really fun and interesting to play with LA. I have like this huge amount of respect for Tom and Jim and Chris, and they are all just such amazing trumpet players and really nice people. And so it would be kind of fun to play with another American orchestra with a nice, friendly, healthy trumpet section and just kind of see how they do things. And, but I mean, playing with any of the top orchestras in this country would be a lot of fun.
Sure.
Just to get, again, to hear sort of the different sounds that the different groups put out and see how different sections do things differently.
So you're talking about healthy trumpet sections. By reputation, who are the top 5 least healthy trumpet sections in major symphonies in America?
Speak clearly.
Lean into the microphone, please.
No comment.
No comment. I was like, you yelled at me for just asking you who you might want to play a night with. I was like, all right, well, I'll ask him an actual question that makes me a dick. So yeah, there you go. Well, Well, speaking of unhealthy trumpet players,
nice.
That's a professional. I'm a professional podcaster. That was a segue right there. So our dear friend Jens Lindemann, who I know that you know well, Jens has been going through some shop problems. It's been years now, hasn't it?
At least all.
Yeah, it's a good thing he's got tenure out there at UCLA. So do you have any advice for Jens as a player? I think that you're uniquely qualified here. You're analytical, you're also musical. I think you kind of approach this from all angles, and you can play taps when you have to piss so badly that it's actually making you cry. So I think you're the guy here. So what is your advice for Jens in this desperate time of need?
Well, I actually might really be able to help. I used to sit in with this big band, and there was a lead trumpet player who would rub hot sauce on his chops because he said it opened up the capillaries, got the blood flowing. So maybe it's a blood flow thing. I think if Jens maybe spent some time with some salsa or tapatio or different hot sauces, that might help.
He doesn't have a chop problem. He has a capillary problem.
Could be.
Open up the capillaries.
Well, I think at this point he's got to be open to anything. I mean, it's like, what are you out? A bottle of hot sauce, I guess, if if it doesn't work. So that's good. Open up the capillaries. Have you ever? How do you open up your capillaries, Lance?
First you need 2 goats.
2 of them? 2 of them. One isn't going to be enough?
No. And they have to be the same sex goat, but they can't be related to one another. How much? I mean, I'll
Oh,
unpack this
goodness.
if you want. It takes about 45 minutes.
Well, let's have an extra long bonus episode while Jeff just sits and listens to you unpack your two goat theory. Yeah, that's good because he's got a gig in less than 3 hours, so I'm sure he doesn't need to get dressed and warm up.
Two goat theory is going into the show notes.
Two goat theory. There you go. So yeah, part of the reason why you need to listen to episodes is just to be able to decipher the show notes that land. It's like,
they're getting more cryptic as time goes on.
They talked to Jeff Strong from the St. Louis Symphony about the two goat theory. Yeah, that's interesting. So anyway, Jeff, this has been awesome. This has been I knew it would be. I talked to you 2 years ago when we were playing a gig together and about doing this, and maybe it was a few years ago. And anyway, I'm really glad that we were finally able to make this happen.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
This was great.
And Jeff is going to hang on here for the bonus episode for our Patreon patrons. So thank you to Jeff and Lance. Thank you as always, for your diligence and
thank you.
Just you're an inspiration.
No,
really.
Thank you.
So
no, thank you.
And that is going to do it for another episode of the Brass Junkies.
You've been listening to The Brass Junkies on the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network. If you would like to hear the bonus episode featuring today's guest, please visit patreon.com/thebrassjunkies to learn how you can support the show and instantly access all bonus materials, as well as gain access to a special patron-only Facebook group. The Brass Junkies is produced by the amazing, wonderful, and truly inspirational Will Houchin. The theme music was composed by Fernando Dados and performed by Andrew Hitz and Lance LaDuke. We are at Pray for Jens on Twitter and Instagram and have a Facebook page at facebook.com/prayforjens. You can find out more about the Brass Junkies and all the other Pedal Note Media podcasts at pedalnotemedia.com. This has been a presentation of the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network.